Picture this. You found the spot. The first few casts, bam, fish on, then another. You're thinking, this is it. I've finally cracked the code. You settle onto your fishing box, get your gear arranged just right, and maybe pour a hot drink. And then, nothing. Complete and total silence. The bites just stop. Sound familiar? Today we're dissecting what I call the 15-minute curse. It's that baffling, frustrating phenomenon where a hot bite dies the exact moment you think you're set for the day. And I promise you, it's not bad luck. It's almost certainly something you are doing. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is, and more importantly, how to stop doing it. Do you think it's just the fish naturally moving on? Let me know what you think in the comments right now, because I'm betting the real answer is going to surprise you. For generations, we've had our own theories about this. We say things like, the first fish I caught must have spooked the rest of the school. Or maybe, a big pike must have moved in and scared everything away. We blame the weather, the changing light, or a dozen other things beyond our control. It's a common experience that bonds us as anglers. It's the story we tell back at the dock or in the forums online. The traditional wisdom tells us to find a good spot, set up camp, and be patient. We've been taught to get comfortable for a long day. But what if that very act of getting comfortable is the problem? What if the habits we've learned over decades are actually the root cause of the bite shutting down? We're about to challenge that old-school thinking, because understanding this single concept is the difference between a full live well and going home with just a story about the ones that bit for the first 15 minutes. Let's start with the very beginning. Your arrival is the first domino to fall. Think about how you approach the water's edge or your spot on the ice, the sound of your heavy boots crunching on gravel, dry leaves, or snow, the metallic clank of your gear banging together as you walk. To you, it's just background noise. To a fish, it's an earthquake. Underwater, these low-frequency sounds travel much farther and faster than they do in the air. The fish in the area immediately go on high alert. They don't know if you're a predator like a bear or just a clumsy angler. So why do you get those first few bites? Simple. Those are the boldest, most aggressive, and frankly, the dumbest fish in the school. They are the young ones, full of competitive fire. Their instinct to feed momentarily overpowers their instinct to flee. They hit your bait before their brain has fully processed the danger signals you've already sent out. They are the outliers. The rest of the school, the smarter and often larger fish, are already watching. They've heard you. They are now suspicious and waiting to see what happens next. You haven't scared them off yet, but you have put them on notice. The countdown has begun. Now for the main event, the settling in phase. This is the absolute killer. After those first few exciting bites, you decide this is the spot. So you sit down on your box or chair. That single action sends a new, powerful thud through the ground. Then you open your tackle box. The loud snap of the plastic latches echoes through the water. You decide to get organized. You start arranging your lures, your bait containers, your thermos. Each item you place on the ground or ice sends another sharp vibration directly into the fish's living room. Imagine you're in your house and you hear a loud, unexplained bang on the roof. You'd be on edge, right? Now imagine a series of different, sharp, unnatural noises. You wouldn't relax and eat dinner. You'd be looking for the source of the threat. That's exactly what you are doing to the fish. That initial school of fish that was already wary? You've just confirmed their worst fears. You've told them, I am big, I am loud, and I am right on top of you. The dumb ones are already caught, and the smart ones have all the evidence they need to decide that this area is not safe to feed in. They quietly begin to slip away to safer, deeper water. Let's talk more about vibrations, because this is a concept most anglers completely underestimate. Fish don't just hear, they feel. Their entire body, from nose to tail, is covered by a sensory organ called the lateral line. It's a system of fluid-filled canals that detects the tiniest changes in water pressure and vibration. It's how they sense prey, avoid predators, and navigate in murky water. It's their superpower. When you stomp your feet on the bank to get warm, you're not just making noise. You are sending seismic waves like a mini earthquake directly into their environment. Dropping a heavy tackle box onto the ice doesn't just make a thud, it creates a shock wave that radiates outwards. Even something as simple as drilling a second hole with your auger, too close to the first, sends a massive, terrifying vibration that fish can feel from a long way off. We are giants in their world. Every heavy, clumsy movement we make is a shout in a quiet library. The fish don't interpret these vibrations as friendly fishermen here. They interpret them as giant, potentially lethal creature is right above me. It's a primal survival trigger, and their response is almost always to either freeze completely or, more likely, to evacuate the area as quickly and quietly as possible. Now, consider the visual threat. We are so focused on what's happening under the water that we forget about what fish see when they look up. This is the shadow conspiracy. When you first arrive at a spot, you're probably moving around. You're casting, checking your line, maybe walking a few feet up and down the bank. Your shadow is constantly moving and changing, which is less alarming. But the moment you sit down on your box, you create a large, dark, and stationary silhouette right over their heads. For any prey animal, a sudden dark shape appearing above them and staying there means one thing, and one thing only. A predator is waiting to strike. Think of a heron standing perfectly still on the bank, or an eagle circling overhead. Their shadow signals imminent danger. You, on your comfortable seat, have become that heron. The fish that were already on edge from the noise and vibrations now have a clear visual confirmation of a threat. This is especially true in clear or shallow water. They will hug the bottom, seek cover under weed beds or rocks, and they will absolutely stop feeding. They are now in survival mode, not feeding mode, and it's because you've cast a literal shadow of death over their dining table. Let's get into something you can't see, but the fish can definitely smell: the invisible scent bomb. Before you even touch your bait, think about what's on your hands. Did you use hand sanitizer in the car? Did you fill up your gas tank this morning and get a little on your fingers? Are you a smoker? Did you just eat a bag of chips? All of these substances, gasoline, nicotine, chemical cleaners, human food scents, and especially scented soaps or sunscreen, are completely alien and alarming to a fish. Their sense of smell, their olfactory system, is thousands of times more sensitive than ours. It's a primary tool for finding food and detecting danger. When you handle your lure or put a worm on the hook, you are marinating it in a cocktail of repellent. The fish comes to investigate your bait, expecting the natural scent of a worm or a minnow, and instead gets a blast of chemical warning signals. The first few fish might have hit the bait so fast they didn't have time to process the scent, but the more cautious fish that approach slowly will get a whiff of that unnatural odor and turn away instantly. After 15 minutes, you've handled your bait and tackle multiple times, effectively creating a bubble of danger scent all around your fishing spot. Many of us get excited and make a classic mistake right at the start: aggressive overchumming. You get to your spot, and to kickstart the action, you throw out a huge handful of corn, pellets, or ground bait, and it works. For a few minutes, the water is boiling with activity. You get bites, you catch a few fish, and you think you're a genius. But what you've actually done is created a fishy version of an all-you-can-eat buffet. The fish rush in and gorge themselves on the free, easy-to-find food you've just scattered everywhere. They quickly become full and satisfied. Why would they bother chasing your single suspicious-looking bait on a hook when there's a pile of delicious, safe food all over the bottom? The initial frenzy you witnessed wasn't the start of a long feeding spell. It was the entire feeding spell. After about 15 minutes, The chum is gone, the fish's bellies are full, and they have no reason to stick around or to be interested in your offering. You've accidentally trained them that the food is on the bottom, not on your line. A better strategy is to use chum sparingly, a little and often, to keep them interested and searching, rather than giving them the whole meal at once. Here's a factor that's almost invisible but very real: the pressure of your gear. This is especially critical in ice fishing, but applies to bank fishing as well. Think about all the equipment you bring. You've got a heavy tackle box, maybe a portable shelter, a cooler, an auger, and your own body weight. When you place all of this in one concentrated spot on the ice or on the soft ground at the water's edge, you are creating a significant pressure signature. On ice, this weight can cause the ice to flex, creating pressure waves and noises under the surface. On a soft bank, your weight compacts the soil. Fish are incredibly sensitive to changes in pressure. It's how they regulate their swim bladders and sense depth changes. A sudden, sustained increase in pressure in their immediate vicinity feels unnatural and threatening. It's like the ceiling of their world is suddenly pressing down on them. While younger fish might ignore it, larger, more experienced fish are often very wary of these pressure changes. They will instinctively move away from the point of highest pressure, which is right under you, to an area that feels more stable and safe. You've made your spot physically uncomfortable for them to be in. Let's analyze what happens when you catch that first fish. It's a moment of triumph for you, but it's a horror movie for every other fish in the area. When a fish is hooked, it doesn't just give up. It panics. It thrashes wildly, darts back and forth, and puts up a desperate fight for its life. This frantic, erratic movement is a universal danger signal to other fish. It visually communicates that a predator has struck, but it gets worse. Many species of fish release a chemical alarm pheromone into the water when they are injured or under extreme stress. It's an invisible cloud of danger that drifts through the water and screams a warning to their schoolmates. So, as you're fighting that first beautiful fish, it is actively telling all of its friends to run for their lives. The more you play the fish, the longer it takes to land it, the more of this alarm signal gets pumped into your spot. After you've landed one or two, the water around you can be saturated with these chemical warnings. The remaining fish get the message loud and clear: this is a hunting ground. It's no wonder the bite stops. You've effectively told the entire neighborhood to evacuate. We talked about your shadow, but let's be more specific about your silhouette. There's a big difference between standing and sitting. When you're standing and casting, you're a tall, relatively thin shape. As you move, your silhouette is constantly changing, making it harder for a fish to lock onto you as a specific threat. It blends in more with the trees and reeds along the shoreline. However, the moment you sit down on your box or bucket, you transform. You become a solid, dark, blocky, and unmoving shape against the often brighter background of the sky. This specific shape, a low, wide, motionless blob, is a classic predator silhouette. It mimics the profile of animals like otters, minks, or bears, peering over the bank. Fish have evolved over millions of years to recognize and fear this specific shape. It's hardwired into their DNA. So while sitting down feels relaxing to you, from a fish's point of view, you have just assumed the perfect ambush posture. Any fish that was still uncertain about the threat has now seen a clear and present danger. They won't feed comfortably under the gaze of a predator waiting to strike. Think about the sounds you make with your voice. Sound travels about 4.5 times faster in water than in air, and low-frequency sounds, like the tones of a human voice, penetrate the water's surface very effectively. When you get that first exciting bite, what's your reaction? You might shout, "Yes, got one," to your fishing buddy. Or you might just talk to yourself saying, come on, take it." Even if you're fishing alone, you might be on the phone, talking in a normal conversational volume. To the fish below, this is a very alien and alarming sound. They are used to the natural sounds of their environment. The ripple of water, the chirping of insects, the splash of a frog. The rhythmic, resonant vibration of a human voice is completely out of place. It signals the presence of a large, air-breathing creature nearby. It's another layer of proof on top of the vibrations, shadows, and scents that confirms this is not a safe place. So, while you're celebrating your catch, you are simultaneously announcing your presence to every fish within earshot, convincing them to keep their mouths shut and stay hidden. Let's discuss rhythmic, unnatural movements. Once you get settled in, you often fall into a routine. Maybe you start jigging your rod with a perfect metronome-like cadence. 1, 2, 3, lift. 1, 2, 3, lift. Or perhaps you're bored, so you start tapping your foot on the ground or on your box to a song in your head. These perfectly repeated rhythms are a dead giveaway that something is not natural. Think about the world a fish lives in. A real minnow darts and pauses randomly. A real crawfish scurries in unpredictable bursts. Nature is chaotic and random. A perfect, sustained rhythm is almost always man-made. Those rhythmic taps from your foot travel through the ground and into the water. Your mechanical jigging creates a vibration pattern on your line that is too perfect. Cautious, experienced fish can detect this artificiality. It doesn't mimic living prey, it mimics a machine. This unnatural pulse can make them suspicious of your lure or bait. It tells them that what they're looking at is a trap. The initial bites came when your presentation was perhaps more erratic and natural, but once you settled into a lazy, repetitive motion, you started sending signals that screamed fake. Consider the possibility that you attracted the wrong crowd. Your choice of chum or bait can be a critical factor. Let's say you're targeting large bream or walleye. You throw out a bait that you think is perfect. For the first 15 minutes, you're getting taps, tugs, and you even land a few small fish. You think you're in the right spot. But what's really happening is that your chum has attracted a massive school of small nuisance fish, like shiners or tiny perch. They are aggressive and fast, and they swarm your bait, creating all that initial activity. The larger, more cautious fish that you actually want to catch see this commotion. They might be nearby, but they are wary of the frenzy. They see it as a competition they don't want to enter, or they associate that level of activity with danger. After 15 minutes, one of two things happens. Either the small pest fish have eaten all your chum and moved on, or the larger target fish have seen enough to decide this area is too chaotic and dangerous to feed in. The bite stops, not because the fish left, but because the right fish were never really there to begin with. They were just watching the chaos from a safe distance. Sometimes, you're not to blame at all. It could just be a coincidence of timing and barometric pressure. Fish, especially in fresh water, are incredibly sensitive to atmospheric pressure changes. A falling barometer often signals an approaching storm, which triggers a major feeding frenzy. Fish know that feeding might be difficult during the storm, so they try to stock up beforehand. It's possible that you arrived at your spot and set up right at the beginning of one of these intense but very short feeding windows. The bite was fast and furious because every fish in the area was trying to eat. Then, after about 15 minutes, the barometric pressure stabilized or started to rise, and the feeding window slammed shut. The fish, now full or no longer feeling the urgency, simply stopped eating. It had nothing to do with your noise, your shadow, or your scent. You were just lucky enough to catch the tail end of a natural phenomenon. You're sitting there, racking your brain trying to figure out what you did wrong, when in reality, it was just Mother Nature's clock running out. Let's look at the impact of changing light, especially during the prime fishing times of dawn and dusk. These are periods of rapid transition. At dawn, as the sun begins to rise, fish that were feeding actively in the low light cover of darkness start to change their behavior. As sunlight penetrates the water, they become more visible to predators from above. Their eyes, which were adjusted for night vision, also have to adapt to the increasing brightness. This often causes them to move from shallow feeding flats to the safety of deeper water, or to tuck themselves into the cover of weed beds or submerged timber. This entire transition can happen very quickly, often in a span of 15 to 30 minutes. You might have shown up right when they were in the middle of their last-minute breakfast. You get a flurry of bites, and then, as the sun gets higher, the bite dies completely, because the fish have all relocated to their daytime holding spots. The same is true in reverse for the evening. The bite might suddenly turn on as the light fails, but it's a transition period. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just fishing during a time of major environmental change for the fish. Have you considered that you might have simply emptied the tank? Many fishing spots, especially smaller specific structures like a submerged log, a rock pile, or a single ice fishing hole, only hold a small number of resident fish. These are fish that live their entire lives in that one small area. They are often the most aggressive and easiest to catch because you are dropping bait right on their head. When you arrive, you might catch 2, 3, or even 4 fish in quick succession. And then it stops. The reason is brutally simple. There are no more fish there. You literally caught all the residents. The bite has stopped because the house is empty. The more nomadic fish, the ones that cruise larger areas in schools, haven't found your bait yet. Or they have been put off by the commotion you made catching the resident fish. So you sit there for another hour, waiting for a bite that will never come, because you've already successfully harvested every fish that was living in that tiny spot. This is a classic case of success leading to failure. Your initial flurry of activity wasn't the start of a trend. It was the end of a very localized population. There's a subtle trap we fall into that I call the gear adjustment mistake. Here's the scenario. You catch 1 or 2 fish, but you lose one that felt big. Immediately, your brain goes into optimization mode. You think, maybe my hook is too small, or I should switch to a stronger leader line. So, you reel in your line and spend the next 10 minutes re-rigging. You're focused on your hands, tying knots, and getting your setup perfect. During that time, your bait is out of the water. You have broken the momentum. That school of fish that was actively feeding in your area had nothing to hold their interest. Without a constant presentation of bait, they have no reason to stick around. Fish are always on the move, and a school can travel a surprising distance in just a few minutes. By the time you've finished your perfect re-rig and cast back out, the school is gone. They've moved 50 yards down the bank. You had them right where you wanted them, but your desire to perfect your gear caused you to miss the opportunity entirely. Sometimes, a good enough rig in the water is better than a perfect rig in your hands. Let's talk about scent trail degradation. When you first bait your hook, especially with natural baits like worms, leeches, or cut bait, it's vibrant and fresh. It's leaking a powerful, attractive scent trail into the water. This is what draws the fish in from a distance. The initial burst of scent is at its maximum potency. However, after being in the water for 10 or 15 minutes, especially in moving water, a lot of that initial powerful scent has washed away. The bait is still on the hook, and it might still look fine to you, but its effectiveness has dramatically decreased. It's like a neon sign that has had its power cut. The fish that were following that scent trail to your location lose the signal. The more cautious fish that are inspecting your bait from a close distance are getting a much weaker, less appealing scent profile. The bite stops not because the fish left, but because your invitation expired. Many anglers will sit for an hour with the same piece of dead bait, wondering why the action stopped, when the solution is as simple as reeling in and putting on a fresh, potent piece of bait every 15 minutes. The underwater world is not as static as it looks from the surface. A critical factor you might be missing is a subtle shift in the underwater current. You might not see it on the surface, but underneath, the direction or speed of the water flow can change due to wind, a change in dam output upstream, or other natural causes. When you first started fishing, the current might have been carrying the scent from your chum and bait directly into a deep hole where a school of fish was holding. You were effectively ringing the dinner bell and delivering the menu right to their door. Then, after 15 minutes, the current shifts by just a few degrees. Now, your scent trail is flowing away from the fish, out into an empty part of the lake. Or, the new current could be making your bait or lure spin in an unnatural way, spooking the very fish it was attracting moments before. You are sitting in the exact same spot, using the exact same bait, but the underwater delivery system has changed without you knowing it. The fish haven't moved. Your message just isn't reaching them anymore. This might be the most humbling reason of all. You've been figured out by the observer fish. In any school of fish, there are the aggressive, reckless individuals and the smarter, older, more cautious ones. The aggressive ones are the fish you catch in the first 15 minutes. The observer fish, however, hang back. They watch. They saw their buddy aggressively attack a worm and then get violently yanked out of the water. They saw the struggle, they sensed the panic, and they learned a valuable lesson. They have now positively identified your bait as a trap. These are often the largest and wisest fish in the school. And once they've figured out the danger, they not only avoid your bait, but their cautious behavior can signal to the rest of the school that something is wrong. They've effectively blacklisted your fishing spot. So you sit there, presenting your bait perfectly, while a whole school of educated fish watches you from a safe distance, fully aware of your game. The bite stopped because the class got a lesson in how to avoid you, and you were the teacher. Finally, let's talk about the most important factor, your own psychology. The comfort zone is the dead zone. When you first arrive at a spot, you are in what I call hunter mode. You are hyper-aware. You move quietly. Your senses are on high alert. You're focused intently on your cast, your retrieve, your float, or the tip of your rod. You are actively fishing. Then, after those first few catches, you switch to camper mode. You sit down, get comfortable, and you relax. Your focus wanes. You start looking at your phone or watching the birds. Your casts become less precise. Your jigging action becomes lazy and repetitive. You stop paying close attention to the tiny, subtle indications of a bite. The truth is, the fish might not have left at all. The bites may have just become much more subtle as the more cautious fish moved in. But because you are no longer in hunter mode, you are missing them. The fish didn't stop biting. You stopped fishing effectively. The curse isn't in the water. It's in your mind. The moment you prioritize comfort over focus is the moment the day is often lost. So, as you can see, it's not a curse, is it? It's not magic, and it's rarely just bad luck. The 15-minute curse is a death by 1,000 cuts. It's a combination of the noise you make when you arrive, the vibrations you send when you sit down, the shadow and silhouette you create, the unnatural scents on your hands, and the alarm signals from the first fish you catch. It's a series of small, unintentional mistakes that we all make, which culminate in a dead fishing spot. The biggest, most profound takeaway, the real aha moment, is this. The moment you get comfortable is the moment you transform from a stealthy presenter of food into an obvious, clumsy predator in their world. The fish aren't just moving on. In most cases, they are actively and intelligently running away from you. This realization should change your entire approach. From now on, think of your first 30 minutes on the water not as settling in time, but as a critical stealth operation. Get your lines in the water before you start arranging your gear. Make your noise after your bait is already soaking. Thank you so much for watching. If this video blew your mind a little bit, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more tips that go against those old, outdated rules. And now, I have to ask you. Be honest. What's the one mistake from this list that you know you've been making for years? Let's talk about it in the comments below.